Boys and girls, welcome to my channel. I'm for Classic and welcome to BenchART. So for today what I do have needed is 7 till F. I'm not really sure what F stands for, but all I want to say is, well, I'm not going to say it of course because YouTube. Alright, and so my objective today it is to try out 7 till F on the RX 16700 XT and see how it performs. When it comes to the requirements, this game just offers pretty much the same typical Unreal Engine 5 requirements. So they do recommend the 6800 and 16 gigs of RAM and SSD, and this time around the Ryzen 5 500 and 5500. Okay, so it's not really that much. It doesn't seem demanding to the CPU, and so it is also using Unreal Engine 5.4. And if you ask yourself if this game stutters, well, yes, it does, but just like most of the Unreal Engine 5.4 titles, it's not really that much because it seems like for some reason games with this with this engine version, or something superior, developers started to do a better job with it. Maybe the engine is helping out a little bit on this for a change. I don't know. But all I can say is that yes, it does stutter. Yes, it does have traversal stutter. Yes, it does have shader cache stuttering. But it's not as much as the older Unreal Engine 5 titles, alright? And there are some telltales, for example, of the shader cache in the middle of the entire game, like for example, some parts in this video you can see like the CPU usage ramping up to 99% or 80% when the tutorials do appear. It seems like they are using the tutorials to do a little bit of shader caching of what's up ahead. This is very intelligent from them. I just don't know how it will behave when there is no more tutorials. Alright, but let's talk a little bit about the performance that you can expect. So at 1080p, my recommended settings is to go with 1080p performance using TSR Quality. Alright, so what is performance? Performance is pretty much kind of a mixed bag in between medium settings and high settings, and you are actually using lumen for the GI system, but you are using screen space reflections for the reflections instead of the lumen solution. So by using this setting, my frame rate it is well above than 60 frames per second, and in fact, when you put the performance preset, it defaults to TSR on its performance, and so I decided to raise it to quality because I didn't want to upscale from 540p. I wanted to upscale from 720p instead to 1080p. And yeah, using performance and using TSR quality performance, it is actually very good, pretty much above than 60 for most of the time. Alright. The only thing that really throws it down, it is mostly just the shader cache stutterings that sometimes appear or just the traversal. But above all, it does look very good, it does play very good, and it offers a decent performance. And if you ask myself if there is difference in graphics quality comparing in between settings like the performance, the balance, and the quality, all I have to say is that yes, there is differences, but it's not really a bigger deal. You just get like worse shadows, worse lumen, and I can see like some volumetrics drawing in later when using performance mode. The same thing for the lumen GI system. I can see like it can get drawn in front of your face, but for the most part it's not really a big deal in my opinion. And the entire aesthetic and art style of the game, it is not broken by using this setting. Okay, so I'm just going to cut it off in here, and I want to show you more settings that you can use to play. So for 1080p you can also go with the balanced setting. The balanced setting, it is mostly high settings. Okay, and I'm sticking up yet with TSR quality, and the performance, it is for the most part above than 60 frames per second. I barely encounter any moment where it did drop below than 60, so it's a very good option for variable refresh rate screens. The issue is if you go with 1080p quality, which is essentially maximum settings in here, and using lumen for reflections and using TSR on quality, the performance is worse, but it is also a very good option for variable refresh rate screens. Alright, so for 1440p, my recommendation, it is pretty much the same as the 1080p. I do recommend you to go with the performance and use TSR on its balance mode. By using these, you will be probably upscaling from around 800 something p to 1440p while using this mixed bag in between medium and high settings. So unfortunately, this doesn't offer really a consistent 60 frames per second. It is for the most part above than 60, but unfortunately it just can't hold on like that for the entire time that I did try it out. Okay, so that's a little bit unfortunate. One thing that I forgot to mention is that, as you could probably already tell, cutscenes are locked unfortunately to 30 frames per second, and there is no option for you to disable this limitation. Okay, that's something that they could add later on a patch, who the hell knows. And yes, let's hope that at least on a future patch they could solve some of the shader stunterings that weren't really gathered at the beginning of the startup of the game. Because one of the things that I find that I did found curious about it is that during the startup of this game, the shader compilation, it was really quick, so maybe they didn't really collect that much shaders, but I think they should kind of patch the game and try to add more shaders into that, because there is still some stuttering. Okay, but yeah, like I was telling you, for the most part the performance it is above than 60, but you can expect drops here and there, so I guess that's really nothing to see when it comes to this. So I think it's time to move on to other So here we go. The other settings are 1440p on its balanced, using TSR on quality in here. Okay, so upscaling from around 900p and using balanced settings, which is essentially high settings. So the performance is overall above than 45. Okay, so it's something in between 45 to 60, and on the right with 1440p quality using TSR on its quality mode, I think it's a very good option if you want to play at locked 30 frames per second. Okay, so the other option remaining, it is 4K. Okay, and there is only one option that I did record in here because all the other ones are just unplayable. So for 4K, my recommendation is to stick up with the performance preset again, and this time around using TSR on its performance mode. So you will be upscaling from 1080p to 4K using TSR, and you will be using pretty much that mixed bag in between medium and high settings. Performance, it is overall above than 30, so it's a good solution if you want to play at 30 frames per second locked, but I'm assuming that you will find moments where it can drop to something below than that, okay, which is a little bit unfortunate. Other things that I want to point out to this port is that you have multiple types of anti-aliasing to choose from. So I did use TSR because I think it's the better and the superior choice, but you also have FSR if you want to choose. There is TAA, and you can actually play the game with the native resolution using TAA, which curiously enough, it is less demanding than using TSR quality to upscale. But to be honest, TAA, even at the native resolution, looks considerably worse than TSR on quality. So TAA at 1080p for me looks worse than TSR from 720p to 1080p, which is actually impressive, but yeah, it makes sense given that TAA using native resolution, for some reason it is less demanding than upscaling with TSR. There is also the option to use FXAA if you hate any temporal anti-aliasing, but as you can probably tell from other video games using Unreal Engine, it is built in around temporal anti-aliasings, so using a non-temporal anti-aliasing, it just looks broken. So the air looks dithering all over the place, the shadows looks dithering, the ambient occlusion looks dithering, so all the effects rely on the temporal anti-aliasing to mask the bad quality that they have. This is no surprise. It is actually built in with this in mind. Unreal and Epic knew what the hell they were doing when they made that, and so yeah, I think I do recommend you to stick up with TSR instead of the other solutions, but it's really up to you to choose what you do enjoy the most. So I think it does run very well. I think it's many people say that, or they are trying to argument that Silent Hill F it's not a Souls-like game. It is a little bit. Okay, it's not entirely a Souls-like game. The combat system, it is a Souls-like game, but all the rest of the game looks like an horror game. Okay, so that's really the distinction in between Silent Hill F and all the other Souls games. So with this, guys, I think it's time to end up this video. I mean, at least my part of talking. I will let you enjoy a little bit more of gameplay. Hope you did enjoy the video, and I do hope to see you soon. Goodbye.